Machiavelli's most ruthless power move wasn't violence, it was infiltration. Chapter 20 of The Prince. A wise ruler should cultivate opposition, but ensure it serves his purposes. Translation. If people are going to resist you anyway, better to be the one leading the resistance. And this tactic, controlled opposition, is everywhere. It's how Amazon created worker advocacy groups that never actually strike. It's how your manager became the cool boss who complains about corporate with you, but enforces every policy anyway. It's how the friend who's totally on your side somehow always talks you out of actually doing anything about it. When you can't beat them, join them. When you can't silence critics, become their loudest voice. When you can't stop the revolution, lead it straight into a dead end. I'm going to show you the 5 signs someone is controlled opposition, why this is Machiavelli's darkest strategy, and how to spot the people who are neutralizing you by agreeing with you. Let's get into it. So here's what Machiavelli actually understood that most people miss. He wasn't just writing about how to gain power, he was writing about how to keep it. And one of his core insights was this: your enemies aren't actually your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is uncontrolled resistance. See, when someone openly opposes you, that's manageable. You know where they stand. You know what they want. You can fight them directly. But when resistance is decentralized, organic, unpredictable, that's dangerous. That's the stuff that topples governments and destroys careers. So Machiavelli's solution was genius in its cruelty. Don't destroy your opposition. Manage it. He literally advised rulers to create and fund opposition groups, but to control them from the inside. Give people a place to vent. Let them organize. Let them feel heard. But make absolutely certain they never develop real teeth. Because here's the thing. People need to complain. They need to resist. It's human nature. So if you try to suppress it completely, it goes underground. It gets dangerous. But if you give them a safe way to resist, a way that feels productive but accomplishes nothing, you've just neutralized the threat entirely. And this isn't ancient history. This is the playbook for modern power. Let me give you the most documented example of this in American history. COINTELPRO, the FBI's counterintelligence program from the 1950s through the 70s. Their mission: disrupt domestic political organizations, civil rights groups, anti-war movements, anything that threatened the status quo. And you know what their number one tactic was? Not arrests, not violence, infiltration. They would plant agents inside these movements, and these weren't obvious saboteurs. These were the most passionate members, the ones who showed up to every meeting, the ones who volunteered for everything, the ones who seemed more committed than anyone else. But here's what they did. They'd propose the most extreme actions, things that would scare off moderates and give the FBI reason to crack down. They'd start internal conflicts over meaningless issues. They'd push for endless debates instead of concrete action. They'd create splits within leadership, and most insidiously, they'd identify the real threats, the organizers who were actually effective, and quietly marginalize them. Make them look unreasonable, make them look divisive. The Black Panther Party, the American Indian movement, anti-war groups, all of them were infiltrated this way. And the genius of it? Most members had no idea it was happening, because the controlled opposition looked exactly like them, talked like them, believed the same things. They just made sure nothing ever actually worked. Now, I'm not saying everyone who agrees with you is a Fed, but I am saying the psychological tactic is alive and well, and it's being used in your everyday life. Let's bring this into the modern workplace, because this is where most Americans will encounter it first. You've probably worked somewhere with a cool manager, the one who agrees that corporate is ridiculous, who complains about the same things you do, who says, yeah, this policy is stupid, but my hands are tied. They create this sense of solidarity with you. You're both suffering under the same system, right? You're on the same team, except they still enforce every policy. They still write you up for being late. They still deny your time off requests. They still give you the same talking points in your performance review. That's controlled opposition. Because here's what's happening psychologically. When your manager validates your frustration, it releases pressure. You feel heard. And when you feel heard, you're less likely to escalate. You're less likely to go to their boss. You're less likely to organize with your coworkers. They've given you just enough validation that you don't seek real change. Or here's another one. Employee resource groups. Big corporations love these now. We're creating a space for underrepresented voices. Sounds great, right? Except look at what actually happens. These groups meet, they discuss issues, they write reports, they make recommendations, and then nothing changes. Or maybe there's a new training module. Maybe there's a diversity statement on the website. But the actual power structure, untouched. The actual decision makers, still the same people. Because these groups were never designed to create change. They were designed to manage the desire for change, to create the appearance of progress while ensuring nothing fundamental shifts. That's Machiavelli. That's cultivating opposition, but ensuring it serves your purposes. Now let's get really uncomfortable, because this happens in your personal life too. Think about that friend who's always on your side, always validates your complaints, always says, you're absolutely right, they're terrible. But when you say, okay, I'm going to confront them, what happens? Well, maybe wait until things calm down. You don't want to make it worse. Let's think about this strategically. Every single time. They never tell you you're wrong. They never disagree with your assessment. But somehow, they always find a reason why now isn't the right time to act. That's controlled opposition, because here's what they're actually doing. They're preventing you from ever reaching the boiling point where you have to act. They're letting you vent just enough steam that you never explode. And I'm not saying they're doing this consciously. Most of the time, they're not. They might genuinely care about you. But psychologically, they've become a pressure release valve. You complain, they validate, you feel better, nothing changes, rinse and repeat. Or here's a darker version. The person who's always in crisis mode. Every conversation becomes about their drama, their problems, their latest catastrophe. And you, being a good friend, help them process it, give them advice, support them through it. But notice what's happening. All your energy that could go toward fixing your life is now being absorbed by their chaos. You can't work on your goals because you're managing their emergency. You can't leave your bad situation because at least it's stable, unlike what they're dealing with. They're not necessarily doing this maliciously, but the function is the same. Your resistance to your own circumstances is being neutralized by constant distraction. That's what controlled opposition looks like in friendships and relationships. All right, so how do you actually spot this? Let me give you 5 concrete signs. Sign number 1. They're loud about the problem but silent about solutions. Controlled opposition will complain endlessly. They'll articulate the problem better than anyone. they'll be the most passionate voice in the room. But when it's time to actually do something, crickets. Or they'll propose solutions that are so vague and long-term that they're essentially meaningless. We need to raise awareness. We should have more conversations. This is a systemic issue that will take time, all true, all reasonable sounding, all ways to ensure nothing happens right now. Sign number 2. They escalate emotions but de-escalate action. Notice this pattern. They make you more angry, but less likely to act on it. They'll validate that yes, this is terrible. Yes, you should be furious. But then, they'll subtly steer you away from actually confronting it. Because if they can keep you angry but passive, you're neutralized. All that energy is burning off as heat instead of being converted into motion. Sign number 3. They're always finding the real enemy. Every time you're about to address a specific problem, they redirect your attention. Yeah, but the real issue is, you know what we should really be focused on. They're not necessarily wrong. There might be a bigger issue. But if you never address the immediate problem, because you're always being pointed toward the ultimate problem, nothing ever gets fixed. It's like being mad at your landlord for not fixing your heat. And someone says, yeah, but the real problem is capitalism. True, maybe, but you're still cold right now. Sign number 4. They create complexity around simple actions. You say, I'm going to talk to HR. They respond with a 20-minute explanation of why you need to document everything first. Understand the political landscape. Consider the timing. Think about the potential consequences. Again, not necessarily bad advice. But if every action requires a master's thesis worth of preparation, you never actually move. Controlled opposition makes simple things complicated because complexity is paralyzing. Sign number 5. They've been about to do something for months. I'm about to quit. I'm going to confront them. I'm putting in my notice next month, except it's been 6 months and they're still there, still saying the same things, still about to take action because they never will. They're releasing pressure by talking about action, which prevents them from ever taking action. And if you're following their lead, you're stuck too. So why is this so effective? Why do we fall for it? Because it exploits something fundamental about human psychology. We're social creatures. We need validation. We need to feel heard. And when someone agrees with us, especially about something we're frustrated by, our brain releases oxytocin. We feel bonded. We feel understood. We feel less alone. That feeling is so powerful that we often don't notice we're not actually making progress. Because the emotional need, the need to be validated, has been met. It's like junk food for your revolutionary impulses. It feels satisfying in the moment, but it's not actually nourishing anything. And here's the really insidious part. Genuine allies and controlled opposition often look identical in the short term. Both will agree with you. Both will validate your frustration. Both will show up and participate. The difference only becomes clear over time. Genuine allies will push you toward action, even uncomfortable action. They'll hold you accountable. They'll say, okay, you've been complaining for 3 months. What are you actually going to do? Controlled opposition, whether intentional or not, will keep you comfortable in your complaints. Because as long as you're venting, you're not acting. And as long as you're not acting, the power structure stays exactly the same. So what do you do if you realize you're surrounded by controlled opposition? Or worse, you've been the controlled opposition in someone else's life? First, notice the pattern. Are your conversations leading to action, or just more conversations? If you've been complaining about the same thing for 6 months with the same people, and nothing has changed, something is wrong. Second, set concrete deadlines. I'm going to do X by Y date, and then do it, whether your support system agrees or not. Because here's the test. Real allies will support you in taking action, even if they think the action is imperfect. Controlled opposition will always find reasons why this action isn't the right one. Third, watch who gets uncomfortable. When you stop complaining and start moving, the people who are comfortable with your venting but suddenly have a million objections when you take action. That's your answer. Fourth, distinguish between strategic patience and permanent passivity. Sometimes waiting is the right move. Sometimes preparation is necessary. But if every timeline keeps getting pushed back, if every action requires one more piece of information, if you're always waiting for the perfect moment, you're being managed. And finally, be willing to move alone. Because here's the hard truth. Most people don't actually want to rock the boat. They want to complain about the boat. They want to bond over how bad the boat is. But actually jumping off the boat and building a new one, that's scary. That's isolating. That requires risk. And controlled opposition, whether it's a system, a person, or just your own psychology, will do everything possible to keep you on that boat. Machiavelli understood something that most people never figure out. The most effective form of control isn't force, it's permission. When you give people permission to complain, permission to organize, permission to resist, but you control the boundaries of that resistance, you've won. Because they feel empowered, they feel heard, they feel like they're part of something, but nothing actually threatens your power. So look around your life right now, your workplace, your friend groups, your activism, your family dynamics. Who's agreeing with you but somehow you're still stuck? Who's validating your frustration but talking you out of action? Who's been on your side for years while nothing's changed? That might be your answer. Because the most dangerous person in your life isn't your enemy. It's the ally who makes sure you never win. Thanks for watching. If this made you uncomfortable, good. That means you're paying attention. I'll see you in the next one.